Good morning, everyone.
Blog
This is
Talk
Keith.
Radio.
Good morning. This is Keith Broders, your host on the Friends of Liberty Radio Network. Our host today is Byron Dale, and he hasn't joined the call quite yet. So we do have a couple of callers that I'd like to have introduce themselves. From area code 952, if you'd identify yourself, please.
Yes, Erlon Johnson from Burnsville, Minnesota.
All righty. Well, thank you very much for calling in. Are you an associate of Byron's?
I'm an associate with Byron's, and I've been active with Byron in his quest to reform our money and to try and get some debt-free money to fund transportation projects in Minnesota.
Well, I think that's a very noble goal and ambition. I do believe that we've got another 651 number, and maybe this is Byron. Let's see. Is this Byron? 651-231?
Nope, this is Sam Grazzini Lucky calling in.
Well, just a minute here, Sam. You're calling from where?
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Okay, well, just a second here. Is 612 area code? Who do we have on this line?
It's Attorney Michelle McDonald. Byron asked us to call from Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Well, great. Byron hasn't jumped on the line quite yet, but one of the things that I'll just mention to everyone that I'm sure they're probably aware of, Henry David Thoreau once said that for every 1,000 men who hack at the branches of evil, there's only one who strikes at the root. And I think that's what Byron has been doing. He's striking at the root of the problem, because all of these other problems are merely manifestations or symptoms that were created by the problem. And the problem has to do with the fraudulent and diabolical monetary system that it currently exists. And while we're waiting for Byron, everyone right now on this call is unmuted. So any of you can go ahead and participate. If you would like to do so, just go ahead and start visiting and talking with one another. And then when Byron jumps on the line, we'll activate him as well.
Well, Michelle, you had a pressing issue that you called me about this morning. Maybe you'd like to start there and just jump right into it.
Hi, Byron. How are you?
Byron's not quite on yet. Erlon Johnson here, Michelle.
Oh, Erlon. Hi. I didn't recognize your voice. How are you?
I am great. And, you called me early this morning about a pressing issue, freedom and liberty issue you're working on. Perhaps you'd like to share with the audience what exactly is happening on this breaking story.
Oh, goodness, Erlon. Yes. Well, as you know, I've been practicing in family law for over 27 years here in Minnesota. And of late, the last several years, I have had a calling to abolish court for families because I see the injustices, and I also see that families are suffering, and it's very hidden. It's not exposed. When we hear babies being taken away from young mothers, we think they deserve it. They must be on drugs. They must be criminals. They must not be able to care for their babies, etc. Do you think that's kind of the going public image?
Yeah, I would say so, and I mean, here's the reality that I've experienced, and I think that Sam Grazzini-Rucky has experienced. People are just not aware of the corruption and the shenanigans that are going on until all of a sudden somehow you either have a friend, a relative, or you yourself get involved in a situation. You go, oh, my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And would you agree with that, Sam?
Yes, I'd have to agree with that totally. Considering that I went in just for a divorce and how it ended up. You would never believe this has actually happened.
Yeah. What's happening, I think, is the individual responsibility is lost. Just on Monday, and this is, fully represented by counsel, I actually got very involved with a young mother named Ariana Guilfoyle. She's a beautiful young mother. She came to me 9 months pregnant and stated that she was having a baby. She had her rent paid 4 months in advance. She had used some social services at the university, and the father of the baby was in jail for assaulting her. She was very afraid that they were going to take the baby. Of course, as her attorney, I analyzed and said they have no right to take your baby. Try not to worry about it because legally they cannot. Well, they don't do things. They do a lot of illegal acts, as I see it. I'm here to report that baby Liberty Rose Elizabeth Montgomery was born on October 1, and she was violently taken away by 6 sheriff's deputies from her mother, or her mother was taken away from the baby at the Mother Baby Center in Minneapolis on October 7th, I believe it was, on Monday evening.
So it takes 6 sheriff deputies to handle one baby? I mean, what's this outrageous, overwhelming show of force?
I have to be on the line. I don't know if anyone can hear me. I am
Hi, Ariana. How are you?
How are you, Michelle?
Yeah.
I am
this
very.
This is Ariana Guilfoyle, my beautiful. She's a beautiful mother. I witnessed it for myself for 4 days at that hospital. I was promised that this baby would not be taken from her without even with a call from me. What happened was that baby Liberty was able to be discharged. There was no issues there, but Ariana was feeling, wondering why the baby wasn't being discharged. She was discharged. What day were you discharged, Ariana?
I was discharged last Thursday.
Yeah.
Which I believe was the 3rd or the 4th. So much has happened, so I'm either a day ahead or a day behind.
Yeah, right.
Let me interrupt for just a minute. I do believe Byron has arrived. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask all of you to press number 1 on your keypad, which will mute you temporarily, and then I will activate Byron. And then, as you wish to speak, if you press 1 again, a little microphone will show up on my switchboard, which will tell me that you would like to speak to Byron or ask a question, make a comment. So if everyone will press 1 on their keypad now, and I'll go ahead and see if, in fact, we do have Byron. Are you here, Byron?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great.
And I
Thank you very
apologize
much.
for being late, but things just didn't work around here this morning. So go ahead. I'm here, and this is welcome to the show. This is Friends of Liberty, Byron Dale host, and sorry I'm a little late this morning. My computer wouldn't work, and my phone didn't work right, and now everything's working. And so go ahead, Michelle. You just come on in, and let's continue where you was at.
Michelle, what is your? I want to activate you, but I'm not sure which phone number is yours. What is your last 4 digits? Or again, please, if everyone will make it a lot easier. Well, okay. Are you at 6? Is this Michelle?
Michelle McDonald. Yes,
okay, Michelle, you're on. You have been unmuted. You are now on with host Byron Dale.
Well, I'm always going to be unmuted. You can't mute me. Okay. How are you today?
Well, I'm getting to a slow start. Things didn't work here the way I expected them to, but that's okay. I mean, it doesn't really make any difference. You just go ahead. I got in on part of it. Why don't you back up just a little bit and give me a real quick rundown? And how did it happen in the very first place? I mean, why did the baby get taken?
Yeah, before I do that, I just want to let you know, I thank you for this show, that to make people aware that their constitutional and civil rights are being violated. It's amazing how the American public doesn't realize it's happening all around them, and they don't even realize it. So I thank you for bringing baby Liberty Rose Elizabeth Montgomery's case to light.
Well, you're sure welcome, and that's why I just learned from Erlon that you was quite an interesting person, a little bit different than a lot of lawyers, and I wanted to just give you a little exposure and also get to hear your stories firsthand. So go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Well, I have been practicing in family law for the last 20 6 years or so, I was admitted to practice law in Minnesota on September 11th, 1987. I just filed the first of its kind Family Liberty federal class action lawsuit on September 11th, 2013. So September 11th, yes. So September 11th is going to be the day of, we're starting at ground zero with families, and it's going to be a day of construction and not destruction. As you know, what happened on September 11th has gone down in infamy. I believe the family liberty that I fully expect from the lawsuit that I filed on behalf of Sandra Grazzini-Rucky, who may be here on the line with you, and her 5 children, on behalf of all people that are similarly situated, will prevail.
Well, good. Now, just how did is Sandra the mother of Mother Liberty?
No,
Child
Sandra
Liberty?
has 5 children. She actually was raising her children for 17 years and was ordered to leave her home and leave her children there and have no contact with their children by phone, third party, or be subject to incarceration. Her children were put in the custody of, quote, a third party or such other person as the guardian may recommend, not even in the custody of the father. And that situation has been involved for over a year now. That happened last September 7th, 2012, to Sandra. So she's been homeless and without her children ever since.
And what started all that?
Well, without getting into it again, that's always the question. What did she do? I have Ariana Guilfoyle on the line, Baby Liberty's mother. People say, what did she do? The answer is nothing, absolutely nothing. It's actually what the system is doing right now to people and families.
Okay, but how did the system get involved? There must have been some reason. I'm not saying anything but did wrong, because I understand that, but there must have been some reason they chose that particular family.
Here's
one reason or another.
And not to mix it up, but with what happened to Sandra Grazzini-Rucky and her 5 children, she had earlier in the year filed for divorce and actually obtained her divorce, Byron. She obtained a divorce from a judge in Dakota County, Judge Wormiger, that awarded her sole legal and sole physical custody of the children, and the father would have reasonable parenting time, and she would have support. Very simple divorce, and that's a great question, Byron, because she actually didn't realize it, but people do this all the time. They invite the government in by filing these lawsuits. And people don't even realize with families that, when you sue, you're suing each other in court when you're asking for a divorce.
Right. Yeah, that's what I wondered if something like that didn't happen, because there had to be something that she kind of brought their attention, or somebody brought their attention to the family, because there's just too many families for them to go out and pick them random. But you are absolutely right. Once you do that, then you open them up and they can take a look, and then they just start getting all kinds of imagination running, and then from then on it just goes from bad to worse. And I've heard lots and lots and lots of those stories. But so go ahead and continue with your stories.
You got it. And I believe Ariana Guilfoyle is on the line. She might have to press that one, and so is Sandra Grazzini-Rucky. These are my this now is my these cases are my calling. They're in Minnesota. Is Sandra on the line?
While we're waiting for her to come on, what happened with the Mother of Liberty that got the government looking at her? I mean, she didn't file divorce or anything having a baby, did she? What would having a baby cause?
Isn't that wonderful? Well, first of all, she was on medical assistance, so the government was paying for her medical care.
Oh, okay.
So
now
she
that makes sense.
Yeah. Doesn't that make sense?
Yeah,
the government was paying for the birth, and when they pay for things, I got to call it it and not they. When it pays for things, it's I believe gets to be involved in your life unnecessarily.
Oh yeah, there's no question that could
every
happen.
line is currently unmuted, so anybody that I can't seem to locate which number she has.
Well, that's okay. Just be polite, and when you want to, if you want to say something, just open up and ask for permission to speak, and go ahead, because this will make this story really interesting if we just let it flow.
Byron,
I think they need to know, Michelle, that I was not. Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Byron,
Keith.
one other thing is I'd like to suggest to the callers, if after you make a statement, occasionally pause so that other people can jump in without people talking over one another. So when you speak, slow down every now and then so that it gives other people a pause or a break, okay? Thank you.
Sounds really great, Keith. A good way to handle it. Go ahead, Michelle, you start, and then when one of my others, just pause a few and ask one of them if they want to speak. Go ahead.
Well, as I was saying, Ariana Guilfoyle, mother of baby Liberty, who was only born October 1, 2013 of this year, taken away just this past Monday. Actually, the mother was just, I would say, violently taken away from her baby at the Mother Baby Center in Minneapolis, Allina Hospital's Abbott Northwestern. She was on medical assistance, and that's believed to be the reason why, I guess you could call her being on the radar, having given birth to a healthy, bouncing baby girl full term, and also no drugs or anything in her system. She was healthy, mother and baby doing fine. Yeah, doesn't it sound, you go, like,
well,
okay, so what did she do? Okay,
nothing,
I'll give you one other hint. Again, she did nothing. Several years ago, she had a baby, another 2.5-year-old. This is when she's in her early 20s, and she brought this young boy that she was taking excellent care of. His name was Elijah, to the Hennepin County Medical Center for a rash. Suddenly she was met by security officers. They pulled little Elijah from her arms, and she woke up from a sedation that they gave her. She was not even the patient. She woke up on the hospital floor with no baby and no papers. She had to investigate what happened. Eventually, that thrust her into what we call due process, which is non-existent in this fashion. And she went through a process, having found no drugs in her system except the ones the hospital gave her, having promised by judges that she'll get her baby back in a couple of days, to a system where little Elijah was on the adoption list before she even had her rights terminated.
Holy cow. All because he had a rash, huh?
He had a rash. It was bed bugs. She was staying at what I understand, and Ariana, if you're on the line, you can jump in. You want to talk about this a little?
Yeah. I recently had vacated a roommate's home, and so I needed about a month to find an apartment. And so I decided, instead of couch surfing, because I obviously had ample employment, I had a daycare, I had already things in place, I said, I'm just going to get a hotel room, and then I will move into this place that I was supposed to be preparing for on the 1st. And when he had got the rash, this was when all of I don't know if anybody remembers years ago when the Motel 6s were on the news for some of them being shut down for bed bugs. And of course, I happened to choose a Motel 6 that was cheap. I wanted to be able to save my money, which was going towards my partner on the
Makes
1st.
Sense.
Right, and I felt like, I'm still functioning, I'm still going to work, he's going to daycare, we had everything that we needed, nobody was down and out and couch surfing, and just by having a rash, and my pediatrician, this was on a Friday, said, I'm closing here at 5. This is Partners in Pediatrics, and they have several locations. says, you can either bring him to an urgent care or an emergency room. And I am young and naive and never had experienced anything like this. This would have been 1,000 miles from my mind. I never would have thought I'd walk into an emergency room with my young son to treat a rash for him and lose him. I had heard stories of women losing their children, but under extreme circumstances, the baby had drugs in the system. She abandoned the baby somewhere. The baby came in with a broken leg due to some abuse, physical abuse. I never thought me as a mom stepping up to the plate and saying, okay, I see this rash. It's getting really bad now. I need to take care of this, that then I would lose my child. So I walk into the emergency room. I was there for over 8 hours. One of the nursing assistants said, you need to leave. They've been taking babies. I have a bad feeling. And I just kind of looked at her like, it just didn't register. You're just not, you don't really understand what people are capable until it happens. And so, my mom worked downtown. I contacted her and I said, Mom, I have a bad feeling. Oh, don't worry about it. Why don't you just get discharged? Come to the house. We'll take care. We'll get the medicine. We'll do whatever, and you don't. We'll move on. We'll go grab your stuff. And I asked to be discharged, and then about 10 minutes, I even had spoken earlier and asked for a pediatrics nurse because I have now an agitated toddler who is hungry, who is sitting in an emergency room, hospital room, not in a room equipped to handle children. Bright lights. He's ready to eat. He would love his nap. He also was potty trained, so access to a bathroom. At this point, they had handed me a diaper. I said, can I just get discharged? And within 10 minutes, I had 3 orderlies, 4 security, 2 nurses come in and say, hand over the child to us. And I just looked at them and I said, what are you talking about? And they said, we need the baby. Give me the baby. And I just said, I'm not handing you over my child. And me and him basically held on to each other as long as we could. I couldn't overcome all of them. There was too many. And then they grabbed me, stripped me naked. I recall it as being, as in metaphorical terms, as being raped. I don't know, for lack of better words, and being thrown on the stretcher or whatever, the hospital table, and then all of a sudden I started feeling injections and pokes. And I asked them what they were putting in my system because I do have a heart and seizure condition and I'm highly allergic to various medicines. And no one wanted to talk to me. I just remember from my mom being a paralegal for 15 years, I just remember saying ombudsman, social worker, lawyer, anything I could, hoping somebody else in the hospital, staff outside the room would go, what are we doing in there? And why is this happening? And what is going on? And why? And just hoping somebody would go, this lady is asking for some kind of legal counsel or something. I never once got a visit from a social worker saying, may I speak to you? We're concerned. We feel like this child is being abused. I would have sat and chatted with anybody at this point. I'm an open book, and I'm a selfless mother. I would never have thrown my child to the wolves to refuse to speak to somebody. But this is exactly how it happened, and I woke up on a non-hospital room floor in another part of the hospital, my clothes fully back on, no paperwork, no card, no subpoena, to a staff saying, oh, we just were told that when you wake up you can go. And I said, where's my child? He had this perplexed look on his face and assumed he had no idea what I was talking about. And I said, where is my child? And he said, I have no idea. I was just told to let you go. And I remember walking out into the bright sun, feeling still euphoric from the drugs, grabbing my cell phone, and I instantly called my mom, and she said, I was refused to see you. I have the child, and I was told that if I give this baby back to you, her children would be taken. I had a 14-year-old sister that was going to De La Salle at that time, and I had a special needs brother that was around 6 years old. And so she said, and I don't have any paperwork either. I was just told they would contact me, take the child, and you are not to come around. And so I then myself called the police and said, I am a mother who has had their baby taken, and then that's when I was served with subpoena papers. And this, and then that's just how it goes.
Subpoena papers
for
what?
It's for
subpoena papers for
neglect.
what?
For neglect. That he was for neglect, and I went to court, gave them a clean UA. Nothing was in because they tried to accuse me of the drugs that they had shot me up with to bring me down, which were methadone. There was a bunch of them in my system, and the judge says, okay, we're going to give you your son back. Told CPS if they have any more findings, they have 30 days to process another court date, but to release this child. And when I gave them the UA, everything was fine. I said, where's my kid now? They said, we're not giving you your child back. I went back to court 30 days later to find that the judge that originally had told me that I couldn't have my child was now on, in as I do the quotation marks, on vacation, which I call it judge shopping. That's how I call it.
Oh, that's what it was too.
Exactly. And then he says to me, I don't feel fit to rule on this case, which there's no case to rule on. So I'm going to give you another court date, which then was 3 months out. This is how they do this. They separate you longer and longer and longer from your child in hopes that, the mother will either break down, give up, maybe go run amok, so on and so forth. And then when I went back in 3 months to my court date, it was another judge, and that's just how they just pass you around as if you nothing. They don't remember and they don't follow through and keep up, so that it's easier to just keep the process going, which at this time now I'm being also told that my son had gotten lead poisoning in their custody and had his stomach pumped and almost died, and then an adoption picture was also up too, and none of my rights have been terminated at all. So I'm looking at a picture of my son for sale, and I'm also finding out that my son almost died in the care of a Hennepin County foster parent who had supposedly locked him in a room, and he sat and ate paint chips. So I fought as hard as I could for $14,000. I spent a lot of money on working my butt off and trying. I also had purchased a home at this time. That I, just trying to do anything I can to appease these people, and it just never wasn't good enough. And then when my case was finally determined that neglect based on he was malnourished. Now, this is a 2.5-year-old, 3-year-old boy who was well past the normal sitting chair. All of his teeth, potty trained, off the bottle. Eater. He loved everything. McDonald's was not. He did not like McDonald's, only for the toy. He would waste all the food. And daycare, he was involved in the community. He had family. He had friends. People still ask for him today. To then find out that my case got accepted to the Supreme Court, which, they don't, how many cases do they hear? Somebody wanted to hear my voice, but the judge that originally took my son ruled that I needed to pay full price for everything. My transcript for $3,300. I now need $10 to $20 for a trial attorney. And obviously, if I had a new Michelle, oh my gosh, 9 years ago. Holy
thank you, sweetie. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
so much.
Things would be so different. So, right now, as we speak, my child is still in foster care and is sitting there with taxpayer dollars when I am fully capable of taking care of him. And he has regressed to where he is non-adoptable. He would go back from the visits with my family and act out, and they said, oh, that's a sign that he's being abused. No, that's a child saying, let me come home. I miss my family, and did not want to be where he's at. So any efforts or anything I said, they always had a reason. And I was even told by my public defender in the very beginning, if I go back to when I was supposed to have him back in 30 days, don't fight this. These are my coworkers. Just sign over your rights now. And I just looked at these people like, how is this thing, for me to be such a young woman, what a horrible thing to do to somebody and say to them without due cause at all. So now I'm sitting here fighting for my second child to sit in once again in taxpayer, and the earlier they get them, the better, because they can erase the memories, they can adopt the children out. The county makes $50,000 to $80,000 per adoption, and the families also get money who foster care. So it's just a way of making money. We have these children that are on meth, that are on opiates, that are running the street, and we are focusing on me. And you know what? Taking a baby based on poverty level, whether a mother is on medical assistance or not, isn't. What about love? what about asking, does this parent have goals and ambitions? The things that they want to ask about have nothing to do with the welfare of this child either. So, we're just sitting here today just trying to fight. I'm just glad for this show. My world has changed again dramatically, and I'm sitting here with a credit score, with a vehicle that I own. I have been with current rental history for well over 5 years. I rent a nice home in Northeast Minneapolis. I was preparing to actually have my first-time home buyers this year. It's like all of my goals and everything that I've worked hard for. This child has every piece of baby equipment known. They didn't even have clothes to clothe my baby at this hospital. I had to bring in my own stuff. These are people that are telling me I don't know how to raise my child, but yet cannot prevent a child from getting lead poisoning and not clothe a child.
Actually, Ariana, I want to interrupt right there. Nobody was telling you. Yeah, nobody was telling you didn't know how to raise your child. That's the problem. They weren't telling her anything. She's just making assumptions like, what is going on? All I knew, I fast forward, baby Liberty is born on October 1, coming into this world with videos being taken, lots of love, family there. She had contacted me just a couple days before, right?
About a week prior, right?
Yeah, just kind of with the worry.
18th.
And I really said to her, I said, I really don't need, I can run interference. You don't need a lawyer. I said I can just be on call if something, if you feel some discomfort. But I really didn't, she didn't, even, I didn't require a retainer. I was just like, if there's anything, happens, she had a retainer for me. I said, well, if anything happens, I said, we'll just, I'll just run interference, so to speak. I actually, as we were walking out, I said, Ariana, and this is, I don't know if you know this, but I'm founder of an organization. It's a nonprofit called the Family Innocence Nonprofit Project, and it's dedicated to keeping families out of court, resolving conflicts and injustices peacefully. So what I did was I told her, well, you know what? We're looking for Baby Innocence 2013. I said, I will nominate your baby because it was a perfect situation. She's a younger single mother, 30 years old. She's having a baby. She had lost a baby unnecessarily before, and we follow these babies. We have been doing this since 2011. They might ask for a blanket. They might ask for a date night. It's not, they might ask for, actually Baby Liberty already got the beautiful blankets that we gave out this year. So she said, oh, that would be really nice, right? We left it on that note. So I went to the board, which I'm on the way to now, and I said, we have Baby Liberty nomination 2013, not Baby Liberty, and we might change the name now that Liberty has been born, but it's Baby Innocence. So they said, oh, that sounds great. When this baby's born, let us know. So I actually became a little more involved than just telling Adriana that give me a call. I actually nominated who's Baby Liberty Rose Elizabeth Montgomery as Baby Innocence 2013.
Not all the cases are like that, Byron, though. What she's telling you is one extreme, and then it goes all the way to another extreme.
I've heard these stories for years, and this is what we need is dedicated people like you that will take some leadership role and start doing this because, there's nothing. I have a friend, for example, that got divorced from his wife, and that case ended up costing $180,000, and he did some research on it and found out that the lawyer representing his wife, normally all his divorce cases run at $100,000, and most of them run between 5 and 10 at the most. So it's just a racket, and that's what you've got into. You've just uncovered a gang of people who steal babies for a living and make a profit.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Ariana's case, yeah. My case, she's one extreme. They're hitting all gamuts of the spectrum. She's a single mom with a baby who should have never had it. I was a mother with 5 kids who had raised it has a government job for 28 years, was married for 20 years, no drugs, no alcohol, no abuse. I mean, living in a home, and I was removed and stripped of everything, even my children.
Yeah.
I mean,
I know people don't want to believe.
$800,000.
I know people don't want to believe these things.
I want to just say this, Byron. There's two similarities here that I'm recognizing. They actually, in both Ariana's case and Sandra's phone, they removed the mother from the children. I repeat, they removed the mother from the children. I thought that was very strange in Sandra's case, because typically they might place the children elsewhere. And I believe that's an unreasonable search and seizure. Sandra's case is set to go to the United States Supreme Court. That's how I know when I was became admitted into the state of Minnesota as an attorney on September 11th, 1987, because coincidentally or spiritually, I had to get my certificate of good standing and realized that date, a very powerful date for families in 2013, was when I became admitted.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is what we need so much of. And for example, now in my friend's case, he had two daughters. One was old enough that, she wasn't affected because she could go where she wanted to. The youngest one was still in high school, and she wanted to go with her dad. And they absolutely refused her, and she quit school, wouldn't go to school, and they forced her to go back to school, all kinds of nonsense, because she didn't want to live with her mother, she wanted to live with her father. And then they wouldn't even talk to her, wouldn't explain why. They just said, you have to do that. And she desperately wants to live with her father, who it's just unbelievable what goes on in this country. And the sad part is it's going on in lots of elements all over all the time.
Yep.
And this kind of stuff don't make the headlines, in media. You just don't hear these kind of cases there.
Yeah, and Byron, that's why your show is so important. It's so important to get the word out. Family Innocence, the nonprofit dedicated to keeping families out of court. I was probably one of those attorneys that you're right about. I was business as usual. I had a heart because I always thought I always felt I had a psychology degree as well. I didn't major. I always felt like I was holding people's hands through the process. So I did have a heart, but it wasn't until in 2007 when I had somebody walk into my office in West St. Paul. His name was Benedictus Ambuna, and his son had been down the road a few months later, because again he was in the system. The mother had died, so he had custody of his son. There was no question about that. And one day he went to the bus stop and his son was gone, and it was there was no service of papers, kind of like Ariana's situation, no nothing. That's your due process. They take your child, then they give you a litigation process. And that's when I realized this was happening. I thought it was just an aberration, that this just happened once. I went to court for him, and it took several months, but finally the judge removed himself from the case. Said, oopsie, dismissed the case, no jurisdiction, and I remember running to his little apartment saying, we won, let's go get your son. Promptly, the opposing counsel filed another case. So we were in the same boat, and I went to the Supreme Court with that case just on attorney's fees, and because I had asked for them, I said there was bad faith, and I did not prevail on the attorney's fees issue. So Benedictus is still a great part of the Family Innocence Project. He's on our executive board. But that's when I started to see it everywhere. Byron.
You do.
One little spot, where some attorney didn't serve papers and they just take a children away. It's everywhere. It's just underground.
Yeah, it is, and you see it. There was a guy come from, I can't think of his name right now, but he came to town and he spent quite a while there, and that's what he did every day. He kind of asked people that, if they had anything they'd like to talk about, basically injustice like this, and he went and tried to interview some people at the county court, and all kinds of things, and they refused to talk. They doubled the guards when he showed up, and all kinds of things. And he just had lists and lists of those kind of people. He took it to Washington, but then nothing seems to have happened since then. Everything seems to kind of dropped off the radar, and you know, they're so.
Hey, Byron,
I guess you want to call it the system. Go ahead, Erlon.
Byron Erlon here. You're speaking of Bill Windsor, and I believe Sam was interviewed by Bill in Lawless America. And last I heard, they were giving him a hard time out in Montana, and so he was fighting out there.
Well, and see, this is just to go to show you how widespread this is. That most of the people never hear about it, because most people simply pick up the paper in the morning or listen to the news a little bit in the morning and go about their business, their jobs, and they never hear this. They don't even have a clue that this is going on. Just like these two women here never had a clue that this kind of thing could happen. Yet it's happening all the time if you're kind of tuned in to these kind of things, where you happen to, you know, be on shows like this or other places where you hear these things, because people are complaining, but I can't call it our government, but the system just simply are not interested. They have, for whatever reason, and normally it's involved with having money for somebody, you know, and it just keeps on going, and the press won't cover it. Most attorneys won't cover it. I had a case one time, and I was clearly right, and the attorney said, well, I don't want to know about it, because now I can still plead ignorance, and I don't, you know, and I can just go along with doing what I'm doing. And so, you know, these are the kind of things that happen, and we desperately need people like you, Michelle, to, you know, to take the lead and start these things, and hopefully they will grow so that more people will become aware of what our country has turned into.
You said the word hopefully. I just want to say that it will grow. I am positive of it. I have strong convictions. It will be very, very soon for Sandra Grazzini-Rucki and Ariana Guilfoyle. And all their children and families.
And if I could just say something, Byron, it is our government, because when they took my child, Michelle Bachmann, Amy Klobuchar, and so coincidentally, and when I read Michelle's lawsuit that she's filed now, Lori Swanson, how could I forget this name? If you can hear my sarcasm in my voice. And then Judge Shellhouse, they were all, when they took my son, my original child, not my second, they were all running for office. And now we have Michelle Bachmann sitting on one of our seats. We have Amy Klobuchar in office, and then Judge Shellhouse ran for 10th District Court judge, which I voted against her. And now Lori Swanson is the Attorney General. It was all a political move too. It's like notches on the belt. Because the more wins you have, whether right or wrong, the more votes you get. And they all work together. Well, if you have my back, then I'll have your back come election. And that's really what it is. It's getting to the government level now. We are taking children on a government level. We are not taking them whether they're loved and fed or wanted or needed. We're taking them so that way they can move up in the ranks, and these are people who are coming into power. And, you know, I always say this to people, just because you have power and position doesn't mean they're always good people. We assume that. I assumed that these people were good people because, look, they have degrees. Look at their jobs. Look at where they are in life. They've got to be. There's no way. And I think if I'm correct, Michelle even said to me, that's so weird about Michelle Bachmann. She adopted a child. You would assume that her to want to be a mother, she would understand. These people also do not recognize babies, and this is why they take them young. They can erase their minds, and they are blank, and they are easier to, as I would say, sell, because this is what we're doing. When you have all these older children still in foster care, is because they are damaged now. People don't want to buy damaged goods, so to speak, which I'm not calling children damaged, because all children, no matter how old, they all need a home. They all need someone to love. But this is what they want. The younger they snatch them, the easier it is to erase the memories and families and knowledge, which they couldn't do with my son. He was highly intelligent and smart and knew me from the beginning and never gave up and never quit fighting on his side for me. And so I just want to say this on a government level, because we're taking these babies as if they're robots. We don't care. And I'm breastfeeding right now. I mean, they let me sit with my baby for 6 days in the hospital and bond. And Michelle is my baby's godmother, and she is bonded. She has become a part of my family. And I will never forget the fight that she is doing. And thank you for letting me be on the show, because my voice is being heard, because somebody has to hear me, whether they want to or not. I'm ready to shake that, not more than that branch and that root. I'm ready to shake the whole tree. So thank you so much for just everything.
Well, this is why I kind of wanted you on the show, because I just have been hearing a little bit about Michelle from Airlawn, and I hadn't heard any of it, in detail, or really followed it, because I'm like everybody else. I've got my own thing, and I'm working hard to see that some of these are addressed, and it's hard to keep up with everything, and it's so important that we do get people to understand. And it's kind of like, yesterday and today we have a truckers deal going down to Washington, D.C. It never makes any press at all. You never know about it. All they want is some constitutional rights, and it's a government that has some justice, and if you look up justice in the dictionary, it means righteousness, and that's the problem. There is no righteousness in this country anymore to mount anything, especially on the higher level. And there's an old saying that power corrupts and total power corrupts totally, and this is what we have nowadays.
Yeah, you're
not just
absolutely right.
taking babies. 2 of my children out of the 5, due to the abuse they suffered from their father, have been on the run now for 8 months. They are gone. They are missing. And the government is doing nothing to find 2 of my children.
Well, they're not looking for them.
They're not looking for them. They're old enough. Like Ariana, they took her baby. My children were all old enough to speak. They spoke in court. They talked about everything. They said where they wanted to go. The judge would not listen. 2 of them, like I said, are on the run and have been gone for 7-8 months. So what are we doing? So where are my other 3? Nobody can even tell me where my other 3 are.
Why don't we tell people their names? Let's put names to these beautiful children.
My oldest is Nico. He's 17. My next one is Sammy. She's 15. Gianna is 14. Mia is 12, and Gino is 10. So,
and then we have Elijah.
Oh, yes.
How old is Elijah now?
Elijah is 10 years old and residing in a foster home still to this day, that we as taxpayers, which I file my taxes myself, are paying for. This is what we are paying for. And then Liberty Rose is sitting now in a foster home actually she's almost 12 days old, sitting in a foster home that we are also starting to pay for. So this is how it goes.
Yeah, and the sad part about it is most of us will never hear about this unless we have shows like this that bring you on and let you explain this and tell about it, because I know this is going on all over, because I've had some, friends that I've telling you about, and other people that I've known, and how much problems they had, getting a simple divorce, or all the ramifications that happen after that shouldn't have anything to do with it. And this is the kind of things we know that happens all the time, and the only way to help this is to try to help you get out and to tell your message so more people hear it and understand it. And, there's quite a lot of members of Constitutional Club, and I hope that they will listen to this and they will think about this and then talk to their friends about it, because this is another element of showing how little our country cares about the principles that our country was founded on. And I should say our leaders, or I shouldn't call them leaders, but the people that got them power and think they're in power, and they really like to use their power, and they don't care anything about the people of what's going on. It's just how they advance their own causes, their own
and I just,
agenda.
Again, I think that's the next step is alert the media. I think KARE 11 here in Minnesota, Fox 9 News, I watch their news now and again, and it's just, this would be too disturbing, if they were to expose this. They want people to watch their news at dinner and not get sick to their stomach, which this kind of information would
and kind of be
present.
entertained, not really educated.
Right,
That's what
right.
the news is really all about.
News. I was in that, not in the industry, but as a young student, that's what I loved to do. I love to do radio. I love to write journalism. I majored in it. I love to, I worked at television stations, and I knew that, I know they get, now, oh my God, they don't even look for news. They get it off the AP wire. Something like this, somebody would have to investigate, actually trust me, trust Ariana, and read a file perhaps, and actually just be report the facts. They got, it'd be quite simple.
Yeah, one time years ago there was a family in North Dakota being foreclosed on. They had really a nice family, and I think there's 4 or 5 kids, and they was real thin. Not that they wasn't getting plenty to eat; they were just eating the right things and working with their parents, and of course nobody was paying attention to their problems. And so I got the idea one day that they should carry signs and walk all the way downtown up in Bismarck, North Dakota, up to the Capitol, and then. And it made a real row, and they really got their word out, and people was really listening. Then next day it was all shut down tight.
Yeah.
The bankers got a hold of, put the pressure on, and man, I'll tell you that shut down. But for one day they got media.
Oh my gosh.
Byron,
and this is the kind of things you like to do. Go ahead.
Byron, this is Keith Broders, and I just wanted to say that when I scheduled this show, apparently I made a mistake, and right now this show is only scheduled actually for an hour, which means there's only about 9 minutes left. However, I think that we can keep going with a call. I don't think it'll necessarily terminate. I think that we can keep going. So I just wanted to alert you to that.
Well, if you don't, that's fine. I mean, it's been a real, and a lot of my fault, because this is all pretty new to me, and some things happened this morning I wasn't totally prepared for, and so if you need to shut down, just let us know, and because
I think if we just keep going, I think it will
still record and be on the archives.
Yes,
and it'll still be on the archives.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll just do that if it's okay with Michelle and the rest of the ladies.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Fine.
You know,
because. Yeah. Is there any calls in any way come in, Keith, from any place?
Well, we have the people that have been on the line so far. We've got I can see right now that there are 6 people that are listening on their telephones, but there's probably also dozens of other people that are listening on their computers. Now, if anyone is on their computer and you would like to call in and speak to Byron or any of the other guests that are on the show today, call area code 347-884-9499, and then press number 1 on your keypad, and then you'll be able to join into this conference phone call. Again, it's 347-884-9499 for any of those of you that are listening on your computers. Thank you very much.
Well, wonderful. One thing I want to do, and it's Attorney Michelle McDonald, is I want to acknowledge these mothers, because I tell you, that Ariana said it perfectly, that what it tries to do, and by it I mean the system, is you run out of steam, you run out of gas, you give up, you say, well, there's no hope. I've seen many parents, men and women, do that. Just say, I don't want to spend any time, I don't want to spend any money, I have to get back to my life. They feel very, very hopeless. And I just want to acknowledge Sandra Grazzini-Rucky and Ariana Guilfoyle for their persistence with me in their trust in me, because their cases were, there's not a lot of they have to have the trust in me, trust in God, to really survive this.
Also, I think it would help if the mothers could contact other mothers and everybody they hear about and see if they couldn't get them to support your profit-free thing that you're working, Michelle, so that could help grow, because I know there's stories like this. I've heard them all the time, because I've been kind of active in this kind of stuff, and trying to make changes that nobody wants to make. But there's lots of people out there, and the more that you can get them to understand that you're forming a group and they're going to bring some court cases, and these are the things I think will help you too and help the knowledge of what you're trying to accomplish get out more if everybody can get as many people contacted that they, other court cases and stuff that you could hear about, that you could try to get, the mothers to contact them, to get them to bond together. That will help too to make this thing grow.
You're absolutely right, and there is. I mean, we just got to get the word out. First about Sandra's Grazzini-Rucky's case. That was a class action family liberties lawsuit filed in federal court on September 11th. Now it's October, mind you, but it's only been a couple weeks. But that was just Fox 9 News covered it, and then it just disappeared. So I don't know, it's ongoing. I mean, we actually sued a sitting judge. Judges cannot, they lose all of their immunities because they believe that they're absolutely immune. They are from things that they do that are correct, but they lose absolutely all their immunities if they violate civil and constitutional rights. So we sued David Knudsen, a sitting judge in Dakota County. He just was served on Monday with process, and he hired an attorney yesterday, I believe, and that attorney is from the Attorney General's office. Now, he's been sued individually, not as a employee of the state or government, but the Attorney General's office is now representing him. So you have me, one little attorney with a small law firm. We call ourselves a big little law firm, McDonald Law Firm, up against the entire, we thought it was just one judge individually, and now now it's the entire Attorney General's office. Very much conflict.
It is the entire system now that you're going to have to fight. Because I don't understand all there is. Yeah, and I don't, what I believe is that I think about this, I'm constantly working on this case. We have a lot of flexible thinking about it. You can't just stay in a robotic state. We have to just keep the flexibility. But what I'm thinking is that they're probably working on a motion that says he is immune, and he isn't. So I'm going to respond to that very simply. I know he's not immune from what he did to Sandra Grazzini-Rucky and her children and family. Well, you did it right when you sued them as individuals working outside of their capacity of judges is what they really, because I've had some experience there too. Years ago I got and started all this, and I was fortunate enough that I was able to make a lot of press. I mean, lots of press, and of course that really upset him. And then finally the governor said, well, we got it. He won't shut up. We're going to have to shut him up. So they sent 42 cops out to my place, and 2 of them come in the house, and we were sitting there talking. Of course, I wasn't aware of any of this, and they then all of a sudden hit me over the head with a 32-ounce Kensa bottle and knocked me to the floor and beat the heck out of me with their fists. And it had nothing to do with government action at all. So I understand what you're fighting and how it just grows and grows, because once the system, they start binding together to come against you instead of, and where you're always out there fighting alone, and that's why we need to grow groups like yours as big and as fast as we can, so that there's a lot more people that can pick it and think of different ways to force the press to cover some of this stuff. Yeah. And that's how I got it, because I was able to hit one reporter, and so she made one story out of it, and it just went that from then on. And of course, I made some comments that probably got me in trouble, but I mean, it did keep the press going. And
when we talk about, go ahead.
Even writing letters to the editor and things like that helped. I did that for a while. I started, and the guy said I could, and I did it once a week. Then finally said I didn't want you to be a writer for the paper. I just wouldn't put him in. So he cut me down to once a month. But that also, those kind of things help grow exposure. If you can sit down and write letters to the editor, even if they have somebody else post them, it really helps, the whole thing to expand and people to get more aware.
Now, Attorney Michelle McDonald, just to say, because I believe we may only have a few minutes, I do want people to visit FamilyInnocence.com or FamilyInnocence.org, FamilyInnocence.com, FamilyInnocence.org, We are a people's organization. We haven't done fundraising. We have more people that need help than are helping right now, but we have so many people that want to help families like Sandra's and Ariana. In fact, Sandra, a beautiful Sandra who is under all this coercion and stress herself because her 5 children have been gone. 2 are running away from the situation since last September. Now, last September, 13 months, she has not been in her home or with her children. They're not there either. She was visiting with me on Saturday. We visited Ariana, so they actually met each other and consorted and for her to have the strength, and it was very hard for Sandra. The day before, I had asked her to come with me because I need support. I'm an attorney, but I need support when I see little babies and they're beautiful. And now Ariana has asked. I kind of lobbied for it though because she's so cute. Me to be Baby Liberty's godmother because I gave Baby Liberty on Monday, the day she was. The mom was removed from Baby Liberty's hospital room violently. I gave her a rosary that I had blessed.
Which I wear every day.
Church. You wear it every day. I'm so excited.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Guess what? I didn't know this, but that was the Feast of the Holy Rosary, the day that I gave her that rosary and the day that Ariana was removed from her child.
Yeah,
which we share the same doctor, which is great. Me and Sandra both delivered the same doctor that has delivered me 31 years ago, that delivered my son, delivered my now 16-year-old brother. Sandra's children were all, the same doctor is bringing, it's just what a small world and how ironic it is for us to share that same, and we never met or knew each other, and yet the same person that has birthed me has birthed her kids, who has birthed my daughter. So it's neat when you do get together, and you're just like, wow, how and yet we're both sitting and missing. And yes, children at any age. Teenagers, like I said, they feel that children and babies, more so babies, but even children, do not have any feelings. This will be okay. They will get over this. It's like, why have people forgot their own mothers? People forget that the stork did not drop us off and we were not manufactured out of the factory. And people don't think about that. And the things that come out of these people's mouths are such that, these kids will be okay. But the damage is done and it's abusive. And so, it's just a neat thing to know that me and Sandra both share the same thing. And I fear for her children just as well, whether, teenager or infant or toddler.
Well, and this happens a lot. I've heard these stories ever since I got into this thing, at least probably after the first 10 years. I probably, then, of course, I was around more, and I've traveled a lot and give a lot of speeches, and it's clear that once you get in, there's a lot of this, and in the circles of especially divorces, that there is just a rotten mess, too, and this one case with my friend, it was obviously him and the judge was in cahoots, and sharing the money, the $100,000 that he gets for every divorce case, and I've read. He sent me some of the pleadings and some of the judge's decisions, and you'd think the judge lived in a different world. And
we are, and they put 3,400 orders against me. My judge did personally against me, 3,400. Nobody can keep up with that many orders.
Well, of course not.
That's how far over the judge has gone.
And that's what they do, because it and I of course, never having been in where I could actually hear their mindset. It's hard to imagine how a man's mind can run as wicked as these guys do. But they say the love of money does lots of things that aren't good, and I see that's what all this involves, money somehow, because how could one lawyer, for example, get $100,000 out of every divorce, and the rest of them, just barely get it? And the judge, a lot of the lawyers, my friend had 2 or 3 other lawyers involved, and they all admitted the guy was just after it, to run up the bill, but none of them wanted to do anything about it. And I went to a meeting one time where they was, having some judicial reform. And it was clear that people who had been hurt wanted it, but the lawyers themselves, there's just a few bad apples. Well, that's not true. There's only a few that aren't bad apples if you really get in there and study it. And thank goodness I'm talking to one of them this morning. And that's another thing that people don't understand is how little control the people. At least you can vote in and out legislators. You can't do that with lawyers. And, they get you for practicing law without a license, but they don't want to have one either. As you indicated earlier in the show, you was taken before the judge and submitted, and allowed to practice in the court system. It's not like that you have to take a test and get a license to do things like you do so many other things. It's an in-club thing. And most people just don't see this because, let's be honest, most people never have anything to do with lawyers or courts except maybe like a traffic ticket or some little thing until all of a sudden you're caught up in something like this, and your whole world seems like it's coming to an end because everything you thought and believed about how the system should work is clearly not the way it works. And this is the only way I know is that's why I was so interested in having you on the show, that we could get your firsthand story on some things. And, of course, I didn't know about the Baby Liberty at that time. But to really, get people to see and understand how really big this whole thing is of the corruption in this country, and who knows why, because I personally can't understand that mindset. And we clearly don't pay any attention to what our founding fathers wanted, because the preamble said that, we wanted justice and, equality. And, of course, like I said before, if you look up the word justice, it means righteousness, and there's not a one of them that has any righteousness in them. You can tell that in our elected officials. You can go down and talk to them, and they'll listen to you and nod, and when you leave, that's the last of it. When you leave, the door shuts, and they never think about it again. And I spent 17 years working on one bill down at the state legislature. I've been down there 5 days a week lots of times, and it's so clear what happens down there. And you see them get elected, and at the first year or two, they really, they just got into it, and they really wanted to make some changes. That's why most of them run for office. And within one session, they've all went to, well, it's really what the government is doing is what we got to support. They forget within one session of what really they was there for, and it's really to, to see that the people have a better life. And they don't need to make laws every day for everything, because after a while there's so many laws nobody could know what they were or follow them anyway. And all these things are bound together, but so many people don't realize that it's one big thing that they have to fight. And it's all controlled at the top by the people who control the money. And once they understand that and start looking at that, and then realize that once they take this ability to do everything, because they have the ability to control money, and they look for people like the ones you're running into and the judges you're talking about, to do what they want done to destroy the country. And once we understand that, maybe someday there'll be enough of us get together to actually get something done. And if you want to keep talking, you go ahead, because I guess technically we have a half an hour, but according to him, Keith, he just got his schedule for an hour, and that's up. So if you want to continue, I'm all for listening. If you want to stop, that's fine too. You guys make up your mind.
Michelle, do you have more to say?
Well,
Michelle.
one thing we did.
Go ahead, Erlen.
One thing we didn't get into was Michelle getting arrested, and I'm going to make a suggestion here, and that is, Byron, we covered a lot of ground here today, and we only scratched the surface. And frankly, when you talk about Sam Grazzini-Rucky's case, there's just a lot going on there. A lot of aspects to it. Number one, you got the misbehavior of the judge, which is almost a topic in and of itself. Then you've got what Sandra's gone through, which is a topic, and then we actually picketed the judge's church for 3 Sundays in a row. Let me rephrase. We actually petitioned for the redress of grievances, exercised our First Amendment rights to call attention to the judge's misbehavior. So there's a lot of things that we can talk about, I'd say a little bit more in detail, and I'm going to suggest in future shows that we get into that, and then perhaps some people might want to call in and ask some questions and that type of thing.
That sounds good. I would like to hear a little bit how Michelle's arrest went and things like that, and what really action happened there. I thought that'd be very interesting in itself to hear. If you want time, if you got time and like to, I'd sure like to hear that story.
Michelle.
Look, we might have lost Michelle.
Well, if
how
we
about
did,
Ariana?
Are
you still on?
Yes, I am. I'm still here.
I mean, because I'd like to.
I'm very interested in Byron. I find him to be a revolutionary person, and I'm just surprised that I've not heard of you before. And I'm just astonished at some of yours. You're such an interesting person just with chatting with you. And just when you were mentioning the 32 cops, it's such a thug move, and that just seems to be the motive too. Is that we're pretty aggressive country. We do a lot of things too that are pretty violent. But I am still here, and I just wanted to say that what a neat person you are, and I don't want to swear, but I would like to say kick ass in that sense.
Well, I want you to know it was 42 cops, not 32.
42. Well, let's add it. You might as well say 52 because they just keep coming and coming.
But there was only 92 in the whole entire. It was the highway patrol too. They was all from the highway patrol and sent out by the governor. There was only 92 people totally in the whole highway patrol system in South Dakota is where it happened. So they had almost 50% of them out to my place that one day.
Oh my goodness!
And they knew I was there alone. So I know a little bit about what you're talking about, and that's why I was so interested in just what Michelle happened to do that got her arrested, and other than just stood up and was, actually trying to defend, the way it should be done, instead of just going along with what the system wants you to do.
Well,
that's what normally gets us in trouble.
Ariana, I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Ariana, I have a question for you, and that is, Michelle mentioned something about 6 deputies coming in to grab your baby. Is that accurate? I mean, tell us about that.
I actually, Michelle had just left. She had been had been told to come back 3 separate times. I will just say this: Michelle has sacrificed. I even told her husband how much I have appreciated him letting me have his wife. She has sat and almost in a sense how you guys picketed the church, sat and protested with me at this hospital, along with 2 of my other good friends, and then Sandra was there on this last following Sunday. But they just left. We were promised that I would be allowed to stay with my baby until my court hearing, which was on this following last Wednesday. It was about 7 p.m. I decided I just breastfed Liberty. She was happy and content and full and resting on my breast. Skin-to-skin contact, which I believe is very important for young mothers. Breast milk, which I feel, especially in the very early stages, is so important. Nutrients for the baby. And we were resting, and I said, I said, maybe I'll just go take a shower. I've been afraid to leave the room. I mean, I was skipping showers. I was posted in there. I mean, I was living out of a bag.
Excuse me,
when
just
I have
a minute.
A home.
Ariana, did you have any hint that things were going to go wrong? I mean, were you kind of aware, or? I
had no idea that, and I should have, considering how they treated me with my first son. Once again, my naiveness and that hope, you just hope that people just don't do these abusive things. And
trust.
I didn't know. I did in trust, and like I said, the lawyer for Elina Hospital had told Michelle, we will not remove her until Wednesday. She may stay and continue to care for the baby, which I had. I had changed diapers. I had loved my baby kisses. I have done everything, held her tight. Liberty had a sense of what was going on, very much so. She had been lethargic and not very motivated because, once again, you're a newborn trapped in a small room that's medically fit to leave the hospital, and yet we are sitting here in a holding cell. And they were refusing. I will let you know this. They were returning away babies. I locked in a special care nursery for preemies and infants that were born with illnesses and diseases. They were turning babies away from this room because they needed it. They needed it to keep me locked up, but not to give medical care for these babies. And so I sat my child down, not knowing, and it kills me to this day. I could have snuck in some more kisses. I could have rubbed her head some more. I could have smelter some more. I could have done something, and I didn't know that they were coming. I said, let me just go shower. Everything seems to be calm. I'm being promised this. I had no idea that they were going to ambush me. I walk to the shower. I get a knock on the shower door that says, please come back. Now, everybody's playing they're really good actors down there. Just come back. I'm thinking maybe Liberty's crying for me. She would like something to eat, so on and so forth. I come back. I look to my right in the hallway. I see one sheriff and a security guard. I'm not thinking anything. It's Abbott Northwestern. It's a major hospital in South Minneapolis. I assume they have problems going on continually. I continue to walk towards the unit. I get in through the unit, and then as I turn around, I see a bunch of sheriffs come behind me. They ask me my name. I said, yes, this is me. He says, I have papers for you. They are the same papers I had already seen, but I know that they have to do their job and officially serve. I wasn't agitated or angry at them. I grabbed the papers. I said, thank you. I appreciate it. He said, no, do you fully understand what these papers say? I said, yes, I do. I've already had a copy, but I know that you have to officially serve me. Thank you. And I went to go turn around because I thought, I'm just going to go back to the room. I want my baby. I'll just shower. My friends were going to get clothes for my baby because, and Michelle had just left for the evening because they did not have clothes to even put on my child. And so I thought, I'll just wait till my friends come back. I just want to go back to the room. And he grabs my arm and he says, no, you are to leave the hospital now immediately. You are not to be around your baby. And I just instantly, as any mother would, immediately howl, scream, oh, my God, they're taking my baby. And I just went into panic mode. I dropped to the ground. I'm just bawling. They grabbed me. They throw me into the hallway. I then proceeded to try to contact my, I'm out of it, contact my friend who hears me howling in the background, which she then starts to cry, who then they grab my phone, and I said, I need to call my lawyer. They refused for me to call my lawyer. They had a wheelchair. They were going to put me in the wheelchair and dump my body outside the hospital. I need to go now. We'll get your things for you. I just kept saying over and over again, they're taking my baby. They're taking my baby. How could you do this? And I will let you know, this is a jurisdictional matter too. I do not reside in Chisago County, which is the county that is taking my child. I had just moved into my new place in Hennepin County and had not changed over all of my addresses. I mean, my insurance, my checking account. I had, I thought I'll like a lot of people, we figure we'll change everything over. So I am telling Hennepin County, how can you do this to me? You are my county now. You are supposed to protect me. You are letting them come into your own backyard. Nothing I said was good enough. I then am being thrown into an elevator. There's people everywhere. And I'm so surprised that it wasn't on YouTube, as so many people have camera phones and are taking videos and photos of incidents these days. And I am continuing to howl and cry and just cry out. And my baby, they wouldn't even let me go say goodbye to my baby. I had asked, can I please just kiss her one last time? Can I just look at her? And they proceeded to then bring me downstairs and bring me outside the building. I said, my vehicle is in the ramp. I need my vehicle. And then Michelle is now on the phone telling me, stay there, do not leave. They promised they would not do this unless they contacted me. Stay there, and I'm letting her know that if I do not leave, they are arresting me. They are going to arrest me. I am to leave the premises immediately, which they then grabbed me, brought me up to the ramp. I go to get in my vehicle. I'm hysterical, and now here comes my best friend running towards me, just absolutely hysterical, crying. And then they then said, now you can't drive. We're taking your keys, which then she grabbed the keys and said, please, do not arrest my friend, because now we're going to arrest you. You're not fit to drive. You're going to hurt somebody. And then eventually they escorted me and even told me that I didn't have to pay parking, which was so nice. I thought, what a great parting gift. And so
you didn't have to what? I'm sorry?
Pay parking.
Oh.
Parking. It was. I thought, what a nice gesture. Thank you very, very much for throwing me out and allowing me to not have to pay you guys. And then we just circled the block as Michelle arrived with a video camera and was now all the sheriffs are gone. I mean, how quickly they removed me, the 6 squads, and now how quickly they're vacating. And Michelle arrived with her husband and a video camera. I asked for the badge numbers and in cards of all the sheriffs. I was refused 4 of them and only handed 2 badge numbers on a piece of paper. I mean, so it's just, and ever since then, I have been sitting at home and looking at my nursery and my belongings at a baby tomb, and just feeling very empty, but very glad to have Michelle because I don't know my strength, and this is how they get you. So, yes, I was literally dragged out of the unit instantly. And I thought, how could you, and there's babies everywhere. This is how we do this? Like, I could have been notified. I could have been told, we're going to need you to go sometime soon. I could have had my last moments with my child. And thank God I actually went towards the shower. I would have been sitting there actually still breastfeeding. And once again, they would have walked in as if they did with my son and ripped a child out of my arms. And I cannot imagine my daughter, who's very little, being pulled from me. So in a way, I feel things happen for a reason. I feel like God needed me to walk away for a second because they were coming for me, and I had no idea. So that is the last time I've seen my child in my memory. So.
Where were these deputies from? Were they from Hennepin County or Chisago?
Hennepin County, not from Chisago, Hennepin County. And I said, this is a violation of my jurisdictional law. And I had showed them a lease that I had signed. I said, I am sorry if I've disrespected you guys. I have not turned everything. I was busy putting the nursery together, moving into my home. I hadn't changed everything over. I didn't realize that I was causing such an uproar, and like a lot of people, me and Michelle had spoken about this. She herself had even forgotten to change her Boston ID when she had first moved up here for a few weeks. I said I wasn't doing this to then hide or, I'm clearly just overwhelmed moving in as a new mom, trying to get my beautiful, nice home ready for this baby products. I had just purchased all new furniture. I mean, all I've been doing is spending $15,000 altogether within the last couple months just to be able to prepare to bring this baby home and have, because these people put you under a pedestal. Nothing is good enough. Nothing is, and like I said, they ask all the wrong questions, whether I truly love my baby. So I just didn't realize that I would then cause all this, and I didn't realize that Hennepin would come and remove me from a Chisago order, and that's another issue.
Let me ask you this, just to get a little better understanding. How is it that Chisago County got involved, and I mean, how is it that they got involved in the first place, and who actually filed in court and went after you to get your baby?
So awesome that you asked that, because I've been wanting to tell you, but I just was biting my tongue. Actually, this all started from a pediatrician at the hospital. I striped a fever during birth, and I caught an infection which is called choreo, which is an infection of the amniotic fluid. And so they assumed that the baby might have it. So they had brought my baby down to the nursery to give it some antibiotics and to run some tests to make sure that she hadn't had the infection. I was immediately given antibiotics, and a pediatrician the next day assumed, because my baby was shaking, that I had a drug baby. And so what she did before she got the urine and blood test analysis back, and also there's 1,000 reasons why medically the baby fluid on the brain, which obviously my child's head was elongated, was like a cone that was my part of my deliveries. I couldn't get the head and the shoulders out. And so instead of assuming and running that it could be something else and just running the proper test, she notified a social worker, we might have this drug baby over here. You should make a call to CPS. Now, they are mandated reporters, but when you make that call to CPS, you need to know 100% the facts, because when you do that, it is going to be damaging. It has defamed my character, and so she jumped the gun. I'm not angry at their notion of wanting to protect the baby. What I'm angry at is you went and made a call before you even knew me or my child or any of the tests. And
or got any of the facts.
Yes. So see, right, you got to have the facts, because when you do this, it's done. Once you make this phone call to CPS, there is no turning back. They are now involved. And so the social worker comes in, this is a Wednesday, comes in on Thursday and says, I just had to call CPS, and why didn't you tell me about a previous CPS case? I said, I didn't feel it was your business. It was 9 years ago, and you never asked. And she says, oh, yes, I did. I said, no, you didn't. And she kind of goes, oh, I was supposed to. I said, well, yes, if you had asked, I would have explained. No problem. I said, but now that you've gotten the urine test back and the blood test, and you see that there are no drug whatsoever in my system, you have now caused the domino effect of what is about that. But I still had no idea on that Thursday that they were coming for me or my baby. I knew that Chisago had been aware. They were not looking for me. I was not on a radar, on a CPS list. Maybe eventually some months down, I might have gotten a knock at the door. But then they do things a lot different. They just want to come into your home, which I am more than willing. I've been actually begging Chisago to please come visit me, and I am still waiting for my visits that I was supposed to immediately be given. And so all because of one pediatrician assuming, because a baby, and this is someone who has went to school for medical, assuming that the baby was on drugs, jumped the gun, made a phone call, and now has caused all this. A social worker from Abbott Northwestern named Katie and a pediatrician named Dr. Reed have both now caused me and my child great distress, and now my baby, who is fresh and brand new, is sitting somewhere strange in Roseville in a foster home being taken care of, and they would not retract their statement. And then what they did too
Whoa, stop there. Who would retract what?
Their statement saying, this baby, sorry, we made a false allegation. This baby is not on drugs. This mother is not on drugs. We'd like.
But you have the test to prove it, correct?
Right. But at this point, they don't care. Now they want me and my child, and the damage is done. And this is all that it takes is someone, and this is what I have to say. If I'm going, I cannot imagine accusing you, and all it takes is someone to say something about you, and that is how it starts. And I didn't know that. I was assuming facts are facts. Why is my child not returned? There are no drugs in my system. I have no current issues with drugs or alcohol. I have no mental disabilities. I have been hardworking. I've been a part of the community and have been involved and around. No one has disappeared. They treat me as if I'm a wandering vagabond, and I'm not. I'm here. I've been present. And so now what they did was say we need a stool sample. See, they had no hold on me and the baby. We cannot release the baby because now we want a stool sample. So you have a urine, you have a blood. Now you want to dig in my baby's poop to look for more. Well, we can find trace evidence and go back a little farther to see if there was any drugs. I said, you know what, this is getting ridiculous. I would like my child released. When was the stool sample coming in? Dr. Reed says, we will have it by Thursday night. And they did this on purpose because they couldn't release my baby at night, and there was to be a hold. They worked with CPS. So CPS says, listen, you got to hold them now. We want to come get them legally.
We have only 3 minutes left.
Okay, we have to hold them, and then if you could hold them until 9 a.m. on Friday, which I was to be released at 6 a.m. on Friday, then we can keep the baby there. So I woke up on Friday morning waiting to be released, being told that I am not allowed to now leave the hospital for even longer. CPS is coming, and my child is to be put into a foster home. And that's kind of how it started. It's just a pediatrician assuming.
Well, what I think you're missing is that maybe the doctor didn't make a mistake. Maybe he did it on purpose because he thought it was a chance to snatch a baby. I think this thing goes a lot deeper than you do, but then I've had a lot more experience on some of this stuff, and I don't think these things are just accidents or just misjudgments. They did it because they saw a chance to get what they wanted. And with that, I think we better go because the show's about up. But I really thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. I don't know if anybody else enjoyed listening to it as much as I did, but it's really interesting when they really see what these people are like. And again, you need to think about that. Maybe it wasn't an accident. Maybe it was a plan from the beginning when he saw the opportunity. Because I guarantee you these guys are a lot worse than you think.
And thank you so much, Byron. It was nice talking with you. I appreciate it.
You betcha. And with that, we'll close the show, and hopefully one of these days I'll get to meet you in person. And you all have a very good day. And for that, we will close the show today. And thanks, Keith, for his kindness and flexibility.
Thank you, Keith.
And with that, everybody have a good day.
Thank you.
You
Bye-bye.
too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.